Hello everyone, this is Ricky from Data Mastery, and in this video we are going to talk about Snowflake. We have been doing videos on AWS focused on Gen AI and data services, and we have decided to add Snowflake as well. So we are going to make more videos on Snowflake with AWS integrations. So Snowflake is revolutionizing how businesses handle big data. And with this introductory video, I will explain the architecture of Snowflake, why it is different than the traditional data warehouses. And also we will see how to sign up for a new Snowflake account. In the upcoming videos, we will provide more information on Snowflake's features and especially the integration with AWS services and how you can move the data between AWS and Snowflake, and where Snowflake is going to be a better option than using native AWS services and vice versa. So let's go ahead and first try to understand Snowflake architecture. So the diagram that you see on your screen, this is the high-level architecture of Snowflake. And as you can see here, it is broadly divided into three different layers. Starting at the bottom is the storage layer. So this is where your data will be stored. Now, the best thing about Snowflake is that it uses shared disk approach for the storage layer and shared nothing approach for the compute or the warehouse layer. So I'll talk about that later. So what does it mean for the shared disk and shared nothing? So in traditional data warehouses, there was a one center repository being accessed by all the nodes, and the challenges of that was that it brought like a lot of latency, slow processing, all that stuff. For the shared nothing approach in the traditional warehouses was that each node has its own storage or it has its own disk. Then the challenge was to redistributing the data onto all the disks so that every node has access to the latest data. Snowflake solved that problem by adopting the hybrid architecture of shared nothing and shared disk. So shared disk applies to storage, and this is where Snowflake uses cloud storage. So there are no disk which are attached to the compute nodes. So the storage layer is totally separated than the compute layer, and it supports AWS, GCP, and Azure storage. Now, when you store something into the database, Snowflake compresses that automatically and it stores that data in columnar format. It supports a structured and semi-structured data. Semi-structured data could be in the format of JSON, Avro, or Parquet. So the storage layer sits at the bottom, and this is where you create your databases. Now, going one step above is the compute layer, which is also called query processing layer, and it's also called muscle of the system. So this layer comprises of your virtual warehouses. Now, these virtual warehouses, as the name suggests, these are not the physical servers or anything. You can, consider these like the virtual machines that spins up, spins down based on the configurations that you do. So these are fully elastic, and these are the MPP compute clusters. So what it means is that it supports multiple parallel processing. So you can have processing which is being done in parallel that makes the data processing faster, and there will be like less delay in processing the data. And from fully elastic means it does support auto scaling. So you can run multiple warehouses based on your configurations. Let's say you want to run 4 warehouses, so you can set that number as well. You can also scale up, scale down based on your auto scaling policies. And you can also define that if your warehouse is idle, then you can stop that. So all these configurations are something that we will look into once we start working on configuring these resources. And the concept of shared nothing applies here because whatever the data that the warehouses process, those are not shared with the other warehouse, and even the compute power is not shared across multiple warehouses. So if you have worked on AWS, for example, you can define the size of your EC2 instance. Similarly, you can define the size of your virtual warehouse. And according to the load that you want to process, you can either define a larger warehouse or you can set up the auto scaling, so that's totally configurable. And since it does not share the compute power with other warehouses or even the data that it's processing, that data is not shared between the warehouses. So that's why it follows the shared nothing approach. So this shows where Snowflake uses shared disk approach and where it uses shared nothing approach. So that's why it's called the hybrid architecture. And on the top of compute layer is the cloud services layer, which is also called brain of the system. Now it does multiple things. So it acts as your infra manager. It also does the query optimization. For example, if you run the query and obviously it uses warehouse and to pull the data from the database, then the warehouse will be used to process the query. So the query optimizer will tell you how much you are spending on the query, and then you can basically tweak that or optimize that to lower the cost of the query. There's also a concept of a query caching where you can use the cache to run the same query. So I'll talk about all those technical details as we progress into the more videos. But for now, just try to understand that the cloud services layer does all these things like query optimization, infrastructure management, the metadata management. From metadata, I mean the information about your tables, schemas, views, objects. So all of that information is stored in the metadata management. And if you query anything which is a part of the metadata, then you are not charged for anything. So that time you are not leveraging warehouse, but that is totally managed by Snowflake. So there is no charge to query something which is in the metadata. And then we have a security aspect like your SSO, how you integrate Snowflake with other AWS accounts. So all these things, like the data sharing, for example. So all these things are taken care by the security component. And finally, we have authorization and access control. This is where you have RBAC and you have the Snowflake roles. There's also some built-in roles which comes with Snowflake, and then you define your own roles with more granular set of permissions, and then those Snowflake roles are mapped with your external identities which are trying to access the Snowflake schemas or databases. So I'll talk about all those things in more details once I'll be making the hands-on videos on those particular components. So, but for now, this is the high level architecture, three different layers. Storage is at the bottom, which is where your databases are created, and it leverages cloud storage. Then you have the virtual warehouse layer, which is called compute layer or query processing. As the name suggests, it's used to process the data based on whatever query that you're trying to run on your data. And finally, the cloud services layer, it does multiple things from like the metadata management to query optimization, RBAC, KOT, and all those kind of cool stuff. So this is the high level architecture. Once we do hands-on videos on, I'll show you how the warehouses are created. Then we'll talk about auto scaling and all that stuff. So you will get more understanding in the upcoming videos. So that was all about the architecture. And the next thing that I want to show you in this video is how you can set up Snowflake account, which is free of cost for 30 days. So you can look for a Snowflake trial account. You can just search it on Google, and then you can click on this signup.snowflake.com, and it tells you that you have a 30-day free trial, and every feature is available in the trial. It's not that it's a limited trial, but it allows you to play around and leverage all the features that Snowflake has to offer in your trial account. So you just need to have the email ID that you want to put in here, and the first thing that you need to do is put your name and put your email ID. This could be your personal email ID. It doesn't have to be a work email, although it says work email, but you can just use your Gmail or whatever your personal email ID is. So why are you signing up for? You can just say, okay, personal learning and development. If you want to opt out of Snowflake emails, then you can just select yes, so that you don't get any unnecessary emails about promotions and everything. And here you specify your country, like I'm in Canada, so it is auto selector. Click on continue. Now this is where you get the option of deciding which cloud provider that you want to go with. So just put your company name, any company, like doesn't have to be your registered company, your job title, let's say solution architect. Now we have a Snowflake editions. There are three Snowflake editions. One is the standard, the enterprise, and the business critical. For most of the work that we're going to do, enterprise is what is suitable for us. It provides all the features of the standard version, which basically does majority of the stuff, except you have additional features in enterprise, which is like the time travel, multi-cluster warehouses, materialized views, which are not available in the standard edition. And then you have a business critical edition for more security, data protection, and database failover, failback. So for us, I'm just gonna select enterprise, and we're going to talk about these the difference between these the additions later on in the upcoming videos. But for now, when you're signing up for Snowflake, just select enterprise, and then you can choose your cloud provider. Now, if you are learning, that's okay. You can select any cloud provider, but let's say even if you're learning and you are using AWS as part of your the cloud platform, then it's better to use AWS here. So select AWS for your Snowflake as well, because the integration makes it super easy. So this is very critical when you work in enterprise, for example. So let's say if your cloud platform is AWS and you choose Azure for Snowflake, then you will run into a lot of issues, because under the hood, Snowflake also uses these cloud platforms, one of the cloud platforms, and there is no easy way to migrate from one cloud platform to another in case you want to switch. So you'll have to create a new Snowflake account with a different cloud provider, and then you have to set up everything again. So make sure that your cloud platform and the cloud provider that you use or choose on the Snowflake side should match. That will make your life way easy. So click on I have read and agreed agreement, and then click on get started. So when you select the cloud provider, whatever region that you want to select, you can do that as well. I will just pick North Virginia for now, and then you can just select the agreement and get started. So for rest of these questions, you can just skip. We don't have to provide answer to any of these questions. So you will get the email in your email inbox, whatever email that you provided while signing up for the account. And then you need to go to that inbox and click on the activation link. So this is how it looks like, and you can just put in your username, whatever the username that you want to put in here, let's say, and whatever password that you want to put in here. And click on get started. So this username that you set here when you activate the account, this is your, consider that as the admin or the root user. So this is your most powerful user with all the rights. Now when you sign up, Snowflake will give you some options, like if you want to explore a sample data set, or if you want to explore how to load the data into Snowflake. So you can just use the pre-built or pre-populated worksheets, but we're just going to skip it for now. You can see these worksheets. So these are all which are provided by Snowflake, some getting started tutorials, tutorial how to load the data from S3 bucket. So this is pretty good actually. You can take a look if you want to. This will give you some idea, how things work in Snowflake. But we will cover all these topics in the upcoming videos. But for now, once you log in, you will see multiple options here. This also provides the option to upload the local file from the console, and then load the data into Snowflake or load it from cloud storage, query the data using SQL worksheet. So you can create multiple projects here based on how you want to organize your worksheets. And what is a worksheet? Basically, it's just a SQL or Python notebook kind of thing. So if you click on this, you have two options here. Either you can create a SQL worksheet or a Python worksheet. So let's click on SQL, and this is where you can run your SQL commands. So all the SQL commands can be executed here inside a SQL runbook. You can select your databases. These are the two databases that comes pre-populated. The Snowflake database, and it has multiple, the schemas and all. And then you have the sample data, which you can just leverage to play around and use this sample data to work on your queries and understand how things work. And then you have let's go into the project. So the notebooks are your kind of the Jupyter notebook, I would say. So you can just select your database here and schema and whatever warehouse that you want to assign with this notebook. You can do that as well. Streamlit is a third-party application builder SaaS kind of tool which was acquired by Snowflake. So they provide Streamlit now as part of the Snowflake account. So it makes super easy to build front-end web applications using Streamlit. You can build some dashboards here for visualization. App packages are something that if you are building Snowflake apps, like the native apps, you can use these app packages. So you can build a native app. For example, you can build something for cost optimization, and you can build an app and then you can put that on the Snowflake marketplace, and others can install that app in their Snowflake account and just leverage your apps. And similarly, you can consume others apps as well. So it's like we can explore more on that. In your data, you have a database like these are the two which are pre-built, and you can click on the database and you can create a new one as well. Like I mentioned earlier, the user that I logged in, which is super user, and it comes with the account admin privileges, which is like a super user or a root user. We'll talk about those roles and everything when we will discuss the role-based access controls and all that authentication related stuff. So they have added AI ML. They have features called Cortex, which is their version of AI. It supports many foundational models or LLMs. You can create your own custom LLM as well. So there's like a lot of stuff which is related to AI that Snowflake is also heavily investing in. So we'll talk about more of these details later. And then under the monitoring, you can see the query history, for example. So all the queries that you execute, those queries will show here. And it will also tell you the duration of the query execution. So if you click on this one, so it tells you that it took 60 milliseconds to execute. Every query has a query ID, and then you have a query profile. It tells you what this query actually tried to fetch. So right now this query was executed on metadata. So there are a lot of things that we can get from these query details. Then you have a copy history. If you're like the copying the data over, you'll get all that history here. Snowflake has something called a task. So these are the basically schedulers. So you can schedule a task to do certain things. The task history will be shown up here. We have dynamic tables, we have logs and all. So all these things will cover in the upcoming videos, but you can see where all these things to look into in the console. And then we have admin, where we will configure the warehouses. Like these are the virtual warehouses. Compute WH, this comes by default, and this is extra small and standard. So these are the details that you can see in the console. And then we have your users and roles, accounts, and all that good stuff, the billing and other stuff as well. So you can set up a new trial account for Snowflake, and then you can just navigate the console and see If you have to look for warehouse, where you should go and look for that. If you have to look for a query history or the task history, where you should go and look for that. So just make yourself familiar with the console. And once we start working on creating the databases and other resources, then you will get more idea how things work. So that's all I just wanted to cover in this video, starting with the architecture and then signing up the account and then understanding what are the different components that you can look into in the Snowflake console. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more upcoming exciting videos on Snowflake and AWS. If you like this video, please do subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up. Thanks again.